What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, April 6th, 2024, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 14:03 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East. So, as I've reported over the last few days, the world is watching and waiting to see what Iran is going to do to Israel after Israel launched a strike on the Iranian consulate, which assassinated the top three Iranian Quds Force commanders of Syria and Lebanon. So Iran has vowed to respond harshly. So we're just waiting to see when this is going to happen. U.S. and Israeli intelligence are saying that it could happen in the next few days before the end of Ramadan. Ramadan ends on Tuesday, April the 9th. So Israel is on high alert right now. They've told all their hospitals to have maximum staffing to deal with any casualties from Iranian missile strikes. People have evacuated from Tel Aviv because Tel Aviv is the Israeli economic hub. It's the New York City of Israel. That's where they have their biggest businesses. So that's a big target for Iran. Also, Israel has increased their security around their Dimona nuclear facility. That's where the nuclear weapons program in Israel was born, in the Negev desert. They've broken down F 16s at their air bases and transported them by flatbed trucks out of their main air bases. And they've also set up GPS jamming across most of their country to throw off the guidance of Iranian cruise missiles or drones. And U.S. intelligence believes that Iran is going to use mostly drones and cruise missiles in this attack, but it's very possible that they could also use long-range ballistic missiles. And long-range ballistic missiles are not reliant on GPS for guidance. They use what's called astro-inertial guidance. So those GPS jammers are not going to work on ballistic missiles. So we could see a combination attack of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones. We could also see all of the Iranian proxies in the region launch a simultaneous attack on Israel from all sides. So we could see the Houthis, Hezbollah, and some of the Iranian proxies in Syria launch a multi-sided attack on Israel at the same time as Iran launches missiles and drones at Israel. So this could be very, very serious, guys. And the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, said that Israel can and will respond to any attacks on their territory. And we know Netanyahu's not afraid to use force. So this could go sideways very, very quick. Okay. It could happen in the next few days, just like the U.S. and Israel are saying. Or what's possible is Iran may strike in a few weeks when Israel lowers their guard. Maybe when Israel starts their operation in Rafah, then Iran strikes Israel when Israel's focusing on that. Or maybe once Israel goes to war with Hezbollah. It's really hard to say exactly when Iran is going to strike. It could be in the coming days, it could be in the coming weeks, but I do believe it's going to happen this year. And I want to just remind you guys that in November of last year, the U.S. House passed a resolution, H.R. 559, which allows the U.S. and Israel to attack Iran if they think Iran is close to developing a nuclear weapon. And we're hearing that late last night, the Iranian military chief of staff and senior officers of the Iranian army went to a bunker in central Iran in the city of Isfahan. They flew by plane from Tehran to Isfahan. Supposedly there's a bunker there, and I'll show you guys on the map where this bunker is located. And the Iranian chief of staff said that the primary responsibility for the attack on the Damascus consulate lies with the U.S. Okay, so the Iranian top general is blaming the U.S. for the Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. And kabooms were heard in Damascus earlier today, and initial reports indicate that the Syrian army detected spy balloons just north of Damascus. Maybe they were trying to shoot them down. So it looks like Israel or possibly Israeli allies sent spy balloons into Damascus. Very, very interesting. And a senior CIA official said today that if Iran strikes inside of Israel, it will target military or intelligence facilities inside of Israel. This update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to use the link preparewithnyprepper.com. And the link is in the description below this video. But this 3-month emergency food supply has a 25-year shelf life. It includes over 2,000 calories per day. Breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks, all contained within 6 rugged water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $200 off or 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. Free shipping is included. They also have a general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running various discounts. And to get to their general store, you just got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com at the top of the page, and you'll see their general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running discounts here. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video. And a senior CIA official said today that if Iran strikes inside of Israel, they're going to target military and intelligence facilities. And the Axis of Resistance, which is a conglomeration of Iranian proxies in the Middle East, are currently preparing for a regional war. We know that the U.S. military is now on high alert in the Middle East. Israel is on high alert. And Biden and Netanyahu spoke by phone on Thursday, and the primary purpose of the phone call was to discuss the situation in Iran. A military convoy of U.S. forces entered northern Iraq, and they were seen heading towards Syria. The convoy consisted of at least 60 trucks loaded with logistical materials and military equipment, including the medium-range MIM-23 Hawk air defense systems, and they were seen heading towards the Conoco oil field in eastern Syria. This is where the U.S. has a major base. So it looks like the U.S. is reinforcing their bases in Syria because that base in the Conoco oil field was attacked like hundreds of times over the last few months by Iranian proxies. So they're reinforcing their bases there. They're moving in air defenses. And Hezbollah launched rockets into northern Israel today, targeting Israeli military bases. Some of the rockets were intercepted. Some hit their targets. We're hearing that the Al-Malakiya Israeli army base was hit by a heavy Birkin rocket. So it looks like Hezbollah is picking up their attacks now. And it's very possible that Hezbollah is going to coordinate attacks with Iran when Iran launches this counterattack towards Israel or this retaliation strike. It's possible, like I said, that all of the Iranian proxies are going to work together. And this afternoon, we have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert. We currently have 2 nuclear war command and control planes in the air. We have one over Nevada. We have one over Illinois, and we also have this presidential Doomsday plane that just appeared on the flight tracker in northern Missouri. It had its transponder off, and it just appeared right now. So U.S. nuclear forces are on high alert. Here we have the flight path of that VIP plane carrying the Iranian chief of staff and Iranian military senior officers that went from Tehran to Isfahan. You can see the plane here, Dassault Falcon 900, and it's an Iranian government plane. I want to show you guys where this bunker is in Isfahan. So you see here Isfahan on the map. Just to the east, southeast of Isfahan, there's actually a nuclear research facility here. Right here, you see this? This is a nuclear research facility. And then just to the north of the facility, there's a little mountain here. And you can see 3 portals here that lead to a bunker underground. Okay, so here's one portal. Here's another portal. And then there's another portal over here. Okay, so there's some kind of bunker here. You see this big mountain, and it's right outside of Isfahan. Okay, so this is potentially where the Iranian chief of staff went. There's also the Natanz nuclear facility not too far from Isfahan. It's to the northwest of Isfahan, and that's a prime target for an Israeli counterattack. And here we have a picture coming from Iraq showing dozens and dozens of U.S. military trucks heading to Syria, loaded with air defense systems and various types of equipment. And the situation in the Balkans is escalating. France is now deploying forces to Bosnia as part of a NATO buildup to prevent Serbia from attacking and conquering the Serbian-speaking parts of Bosnia after the Serbian president threatened Bosnia about 2 weeks ago, saying that there was some persecution of the Serbian minority in Bosnia. So we could see another Balkans war flame up again. And the militaries of the US, Japan, and Australia and the Philippines announced they are set to carry out a maritime cooperative activity in Filipino waters on April 7th amid recent incidents in the South China Sea. So if you guys are not aware, over the last 3 months or so, the Chinese military has had a lot of incidents with the Philippine military in the South China Sea. Specifically, the Chinese military or Chinese Coast Guard has been blocking access to some islands that the Philippines claims is theirs. And the Philippines has like a military base on one of those islands, and they send ships there to resupply the base. And the Chinese Coast Guard has been blocking that. Also, the Chinese Coast Guard has been harassing fishermen in the Philippines in the South China Sea. So the US, Japan, and Australia are now going to be deploying their militaries to the South China Sea. What that consists of, I'm not sure. And Japan and the Philippines have discussed deploying Japanese forces in the Philippines as the countries near an agreement on several security pacts aimed at boosting regional deterrence against China. Jose Manuel Romualdez, the Philippine ambassador to the U.S., said Manila and Tokyo are close to signing a reciprocal access agreement that would also let their militaries train and conduct exercises in each other's countries. This was reported by the Financial Times. So this is very, very serious, guys. Looks like potentially the war in the South China Sea could start with the Philippines, because the Philippines are not as heavily militarized as Taiwan or Japan. Taiwan and Japan are more difficult targets. Same thing with South Korea. They've been huge allies of the U.S., and the U.S. has been shipping massive amounts of equipment to those countries over the last 50 or so years. But the Philippines is not well protected. And Russian troops are carrying out systematic chemical weapons attacks on Ukrainian troops across the front lines, according to journalist Jimmy Rushton, who interviewed multiple Ukrainian soldiers, and he wrote about this in an article in the UK Telegraph. So this doesn't surprise me, guys. And depending on how the situation goes in Ukraine, I think Russia will eventually use chemical weapons before they go nuclear. But all indications point to Russia having a massive breakthrough in Ukraine along the entire front line. It looks like the Ukrainian front lines will collapse this spring and summer. Russia has been preparing a massive counteroffensive of their own over the last few months, and the Ukrainians have run out of equipment, run out of ammunition. Their soldiers are exhausted. So it's not looking good for Ukraine, unfortunately, and that's because the West has been dilly-dallying the last 2 years, giving Ukraine equipment and ammunition that is basically useless. They're giving them equipment at the wrong time, like these F-16s that they're going to get. The F-16s were more useful last year or the year before, not now. And same thing with the tanks that they got, the Leopard tanks, the Abrams tanks, the Bradleys. They should have got those the first year when Russia was on the run and when Ukraine was pushing Russia out of vast swaths of territory. That was the time to do a massive counteroffensive, not a year later after Russia had an entire year to fortify their front lines. So, and the reason why is because NATO and the United States is now run by a bunch of left-wing lunatics that have no idea about war. The only thing they care about is climate change and social issues. And we're in the middle of a major war. And we need people like George Patton, okay, General Patton. We need people like him in charge, or Dwight Eisenhower, or Teddy Roosevelt, or Ronald Reagan. Okay, we need people like that, not some lunatics that care about, climate change, okay, and other issues that I can't talk about here. And Russia's defense ministry claimed that its forces downed 10 projectiles launched from a Czechoslovakian rocket launcher over the Belgorod Oblast. So Belgorod is a city in Russia, and the Russian military is claiming that Ukraine used a Czech or Slovakian rocket launcher, an RM-70, to launch rockets into Russian territory. Okay, so you see what Russia's doing here. They're building the case that NATO weapons, European weapons, are now attacking Russian territory when they're in the hands of the Ukrainians. And they've already blamed Ukraine for the terrorist attack in Moscow a few weeks back. And Ukraine hit a major oil pipeline in the Rostov region of Russia with drones near the Sea of Azov overnight. And in total, apparently, Ukraine is going to get 24 F-16s from the Netherlands. This was confirmed by Netherlands Defense Minister Kaja Ollongren. So 24 F-16s is pretty solid. That's a good amount of F-16s. But again, F-16s by themselves are not going to win a war. Okay, all of these systems have to work together. The F-16s, the M1 Abrams, the Leopards, the Bradleys, the artillery systems, the HIMARS. It all has to work together at the same time in order for Ukraine to make a breakthrough and take territory back. Okay, you can't just have F-16s on their own and then they run out of ammunition. Then they use HIMARS separately and then they run out of ammunition. So then they switch to the Bradleys and then they run out of ammunition there and then they go to the tanks. No, it doesn't work that way. And that's the way NATO has been running this war, is rather than giving Ukraine all these systems at once and with adequate reserves of ammunition for them, they're giving them this equipment piecemeal, a little bit at a time. And this equipment is not designed to function on its own. All of this equipment is designed to work together and support each other, okay? The F-16s support the Bradleys, and the M1 Abrams support the Bradleys, and the F-16s support the M1 Abrams, and the infantry on the ground support the tanks and Bradleys, okay? But the problem is like I said, the West is just full of left-wing lunatics that are running NATO, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. And Ukraine is going to produce more than 2 million drones in 2024. That is insane. 2 million drones, guys. And I reported a few days ago that Ukraine has already built a drone that has a range of 2,500 kilometers. So that is crazy. That basically puts all of Western Russia in range. So I think we're going to see some very deep drone strikes in Russia by Ukraine. They're going to go really far into Russia and target bases and oil refineries. I think we're going to continue to see that. And the Russian army fired S-300 anti-aircraft missiles overnight into a residential district of Kharkiv, Ukraine. And here we have some footage coming out of Kherson Oblast. This is in Russia-occupied Ukraine. The Ukrainians launched some type of a rocket strike, potentially a HIMARS strike, on a Russian base in the Kherson Oblast of southern Ukraine. This is the occupied portion of the Kherson Oblast, just over the river from the part of Ukraine that is still in Ukrainian hands. And the Armenian army continues to send military reinforcements to the border of Azerbaijan. And Armenia's defense ministry said multiple areas of Armenia were shelled by Azerbaijan last night, including the villages of Movses, Chinari, Satk, Varin, Shorza, Kut, and Aravus. And troop movement was also reported near Ishkanasar. Okay, so the Azerbaijani military is continuing to attack Armenia, and Armenia is moving reinforcements to the border of Azerbaijan. And amid tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Iran has begun arming Armenia for the first time. Today, a Boeing 747 with the registration IR 4705 connected to an Iranian military flight took off from Tehran to Armenia, and it turned off its transponder when it entered Armenian airspace. So we know that Iran supports Armenia and Turkey supports Azerbaijan. So this could go sideways in many different ways. You know, if the war escalates, Turkey could back up Azerbaijan and Iran could back up Armenia, and then we could have a war between Turkey and Iran. So very serious situation there. And the Turkish Air Force bombarded Kurdish fighters in northern Iraq. And what you're looking at here is the flight path of a U.S. sub-hunter plane that was active off the coast of Kaliningrad. And these sub-hunters have been flying in this area every single night for the last week. And I think what they're doing is they're patrolling the Russian Baltic Fleet, because Russia announced that they were going to put their Baltic Fleet on high alert, and they were doing combat drills in the Baltic with their warships. And I find the timing very interesting that Russia would suddenly do combat drills with their Baltic Fleet at the same time as Belarus is undergoing combat drills, and they've moved an entire mechanized brigade to within just a few miles of the Lithuanian border. So it looks like something's going to happen here in Lithuania and possibly Poland. NATO doesn't have hardly any forces in the Baltics. The only forces they have are symbolic deterrent tripwire forces. They're not designed to actually defend territory. They're just there to scare Russia and Belarus from attacking. Okay, so if they do actually attack, those NATO forces would be useless because they have very little of them. And Belarus has amassed hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles and thousands of troops. They're backed up by Russia. So this could go sideways very quick here. And here we have some video footage coming out of Armenia showing the Armenian army moving equipment to the border of Azerbaijan. And Mexican President Lopez Obrador says he has ordered a suspension of diplomatic relations with Ecuador after the Ecuador police forcibly entered the Mexican embassy in Quito, Ecuador, where they arrested former Ecuadorian Vice President Jorge Glass, who was in asylum after being convicted on corruption charges. So very, very interesting. And Microsoft and OpenAI plan to build a supercomputer together worth $115 billion called Stargate. One of the power sources contemplated for this supercomputer is going to be nuclear. And the goal is for the supercomputer to be switched on in 2028, and it's going to be used to power artificial intelligence. Okay, so this is very, very concerning. Microsoft and OpenAI cooperating together to build this massive AI supercomputer worth $100 billion, and it's going to be called Stargate. Very interesting. Maybe they're building a time machine. Maybe they're building a portal to hell. Maybe they're building Skynet. Who knows, guys? But we need to be prepared for an AI apocalypse. And I'm going to be doing a video on how you can prepare for an AI apocalypse, because I think it could happen. I think the Terminator scenario with a war against machines is very possible, because AI is spreading so rapidly in our society now. And if they have a nuclear powered AI supercomputer, that is very serious, guys. And we have some footage coming out of the southern Urals in Russia showing massive flooding after a dam burst in the area of Orsk. And so this was an earthen dam, and it was holding back a massive reservoir. And the dam burst last night, and you can see massive flooding here. Okay, entire towns underwater. Look at this, guys. This is just absolutely insane. Okay, so this is in Russia. And here we have some more footage from the southern Urals. You can see these homes are just completely underwater with just the roofs visible. Look at this, guys. This is absolutely insane. And here we have some more footage. Check this out. This was posted by the Russian government. This entire town is underwater. Absolutely insane. And Dutch left-wing activist Greta Thunberg was arrested by Dutch law enforcement today for blocking a main highway in The Hague. So that's pretty interesting. And there's massive protests ongoing in Hungary today. People are protesting Viktor Orban and his government, which in recent years has shown itself to be basically a puppet government of Vladimir Putin and Russia. So look at all these people here in Budapest, thousands and thousands of people, okay, going outside and standing up against Orban. We had a massive amount of aftershocks in New Jersey overnight last night. What you're looking at here is a map from the U.S. Geological Survey showing all of these aftershocks in west central New Jersey. Dozens and dozens of aftershocks with a strength of around 1.5 to 2.5. This is very rare, guys. You can see New York City is not that far from where this quake was and where the aftershocks are occurring. Literally just, 30, 40 miles away. So this is very serious, guys. It initially came in as a 5.5 earthquake yesterday, and they downgraded it to a 4.8. And then there was a 4.0 aftershock, which they downgraded to a 3.8. They always downgrade to prevent panic. But, just 30 to 40 miles away from the most densely populated area in the entire United States. This is very bad. Okay, the buildings in this area, New York City, New Jersey, are not built to withstand earthquakes. So if there's another strong quake here, we could see building collapses. Even these aftershocks could cause damage to foundations and buildings. Okay, and this occurred on the Ramapo fault line, which goes through northwestern New Jersey. And there's actually a nuclear power plant not too far north of New York City in Westchester County called Indian Point that was built right on this fault line. And this is the strongest earthquake to occur in this area in over 250 years. And the timing is interesting because we have the solar eclipse this Monday. And by the way, I will be covering the solar eclipse live starting noon Eastern time on Monday. I'm going to have some cameras set up in my backyard and pointed to the sun. I'm very close to the totality path. I'm in north central PA, so I think I'm like 85 or 90% totality where I'm located. And then I'm also going to have cameras from various parts of the US and Mexico so we could see the eclipse in other areas. So I'm going to start that at noon Eastern time on Monday, and I'll stay live for a couple of hours. So I hope to see you guys then. And I might be back tonight with another update. If not, I'll be back tomorrow with more breaking news. But just get prepared, guys. The situation in the Middle East is spiraling out of control between Israel and Iran. That could go sideways very quickly. We had B-2 bombers flying over Missouri earlier in the week, getting aerially refueled. So our nuclear forces are on high alert. Our bombers are on high alert. So you guys got to be on high alert. Make sure you have a nuclear war survival plan if this escalates. Russia has a defense pact with Iran. So if Iran gets attacked by the U.S. and Israel, if we try to denuclearize them, Russia could get involved and they could attack Israel, okay? And that's biblical. Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 says that Israel is going to put hooks in the jaw of Russia and bring Russia down into the Middle East and force them to try to attack Israel. Okay, God is going to put hooks in the jaw of Magog. Magog is Russia. And so God is going to try to bring Russia down to Israel, and then God is going to destroy the Russian military on the border of Israel. This is all in the Bible, guys. Read it, Ezekiel 38 and 39. And this could be the hook in the jaw. This could be what brings Russia down into the Middle East, okay? And then, of course, we have the situation in Ukraine. We have multiple NATO countries now saying that they're willing to send troops to Ukraine. Finland, Norway, France, okay? Multiple countries are saying they're going to send troops to Ukraine if necessary, if the Ukrainian front lines collapse, which I think they will this spring. So we could have a war between Russia and NATO in Ukraine this spring. We could have Russia attack the Baltics this spring, okay? Belarus building up forces on the border of Lithuania. I covered it days ago. Go back and watch my updates from the last few days to catch up. But that's it for now. I'll be back potentially later, if not tomorrow. And until then, take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. Guys, the world is getting crazier by the day. We're on the verge of World War III. The U.S. is drowning in trillions of dollars in debt. Inflation is at an all-time high, and there's no end in sight. So you need to prepare your finances for the future with precious metals. Precious metals are a great way to protect your hard-earned savings and retirement against inflation and the uncertainty of the stock market. Also, precious metals are good to have for the purposes of preparedness, to be able to barter with people for essential supplies if the grid goes down. Every prepper should have at least a small amount of silver coins. The company I trust for my precious metals is Midas Gold Group. Text NYPrepper to 232425 for free information on precious metals. Midas Gold Group is 100% veteran owned and supports veterans through the Wounded Warrior Project. Midas Gold Group will work with you to convert part of your retirement savings into gold or to set up a gold IRA. And unlike many precious metals dealers, Midas Gold Group offers precious metals in small denominations, which is great for preparedness, so you have something tangible to use for bartering when the grid goes down. Precious metals have continuously risen in price over the past 100 years and are considered a safe investment. So text NYPrepper to 232425 for free information and to get started today.